We ended the last video by stating that while loops will skip over the loop body if the expression that's evaluated is never true. For example, let's say we have a variable called will execute is equal to false, and we could say while will execute is equal to true, echo I will execute at least once. So this statement technically will never execute because it's set to false, and the only way that the loop body will execute inside this while loop is if will execute is equal to true. So if this expression values to true. So let's go ahead and refresh this page. As you can see, nothing pops up because the expression always evaluates to false. But what happens when you need a statement to execute at least once? You can try to introduce another variable before the while statement and execute it once, or you could probably do a countless other options, but PHP has a loop that works perfectly well for that, and it's called the do while loop. It will execute the code inside the do statement at least once, and will continue to execute it while the statement is true. So the do while structure is basically written like this. So do something while what do I shifted my fingers over. So while an expression is true. So the loop body is actually written right there. So in this case, we can say do echo I will execute at least once. And we could just say part 2, for example, right there. While will execute, right? So will execute is still set to false, but we're going to do this do statement, which says I will execute at least once, part 2, just so that you guys know that by some magic this statement did start executing right there. So nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is that instead of using a while loop, we're using a do while loop. So let's go ahead and refresh, and it says I will execute at least once, part 2. Okay, so let's look at another example. So we can say, for example, I is equal to 0. Let's say do echo I plus plus, so we're going to echo out I and then increment it as soon as it's echoed out. Dot break while, and we could say I is less than 10. The way you would read it is do this statement while I is less than 10. So it should print out everywhere anything from 0 to 9, right? So it'll start off at I is equal to 0, it's going to increment, then it's going to check for the expression. After it executes 0, then it's going to say 1. Is 1 still less than 10? Yes, and it's going to keep doing that up until it gets to 9, and it's going to increment to 10 at that portion, and it's going to say is 10 less than 10? No, so then it's going to stop the loop body. So it should print out from 0 to 9. So let's go ahead and refresh, and there we go. Well, 0 up here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we get the same result as doing a traditional just while loop. So if we reset the I to 0 and we do our traditional while loop, so we can say while I is less than 10, echo I plus plus dot break, and we get the exact same result. So let's go ahead and refresh it, starting from here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The only time that this will be different is if the initial condition is false. And basically, if this expression always evaluates to false, that's the only time that this will be different. So let's say I is equal to 20 this time, and we could say do echo I plus plus dot break while, and this time we're going to say I is less than 10. So if this was a traditional while loop, we would look at it and we'd say, okay, while I is less than 10, which I is never less than 10, it always evaluates to false, display this statement, but in a do while loop, we say, okay, do this, and then go ahead and do that. And then check for the expression, right? Let's go ahead and refresh it. And you can see that 20 actually does print out at the bottom of the screen. We can also test that. Let's go ahead and reset it because I is currently 21. And we can say I is equal to 20. And we can say a while, just to show you guys that this will not execute even once. While I is less than 10. Echo I. We don't even need to do the break just because I'm confident that this statement will never execute. Let's go ahead over here, hit refresh, and as you can see, nothing pops out after the 20. So that's it for the do while loop. That's really all that needs to be said about it, to be honest. Just remember, if you ever need to make sure that this statement inside here executes at least once, regardless of whether the condition inside here is true or false, you're going to want to use a do while loop. Otherwise, you're probably better off by just using the while loop.